My name is Miscobinayshi. I had my name changed back in 2005. I lost my wallet with all my credit cards, my social security number, and everything like that on my wallet. So I thought I'd use my Ojibwe name, so it would be rather difficult for anyone to steal my identity then. But now I have about 10 girls in the community that are named after me, and they're all Miscobinayshis. I was born and raised here in Lower St. Croix, about 7 miles out of Cumberland, on what is now the Maple Plain Reservation. We had lived in Round Lake since 1974. And that was the same year that the American Indian movement came to Maple Plain, and there was some little I don't know what you would call them, skirmishes that erupted while they were on our reservation. And I think maybe to stay out of trouble, I moved to Round Lake. And but over the years, I've made moccasins off and on. That was taught to me by my grandmother, who raised my sister Margaret and I. And back in 2005 when we went out to DC. Remember? 2004? And she, well, it was a couple of years before that we went out there with folk art festival, and she got to put a pair of our moccasins in the Smithsonian Institute. Then I went back there again in 2005 to take my book that we had published then, and they put it in the Smithsonian Library.
This book?
Yeah, that's the one. It tells them about my family throughout the book. Has a few pictures in there. And it has some land purchase agreements in the back that was signed by my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather, who was Joe Littlepipe. And it shows on there where he had purchased the land, which is now the St. Croix Reservation in Burnett County, and the small tract of land in Barron County. And he bought this back in, I can't tell, but I think it's way back in 1905, or before we were even recognized as a tribe. I can't tell here what year that was, but it shows on here somewhere. The tracts of land that he bought, and it only says Little Pipe on here. Issue date was 6/10/1870 in St. Croix Falls. And the cash sale entry was made on April 24th in 1820. So that was a long time ago. And I don't know what happened between then and at the time the St. Croix Reservation was recognized in 1938. Or that's when we organized as a tribe then, and the federal government had bought the tracts of land from the counties. There was 17 acres in Little Sand, which is now Maple Plain, and 38 acres in Burnett County, which is now where the tribal headquarters is located. And then I don't really know how many acres there was in Polk County and up in Danbury in northern Burnett County. But I thought I'd throw in those records in my book so that maybe I'm thinking that in some future someone will read it and take it from there, the information that's there about the land purchase, and I always think that the government has fallen short on paying us for the land that they had taken. I can't talk about the things that Lee had talked about a while ago, but I did find some of the questions that was asked of him extremely interesting. Made me think about some of the stories, and I think one of your stories is in the back of the book, or it's the one of the prayers, opening prayers for our ceremonies I had included in the book.
What life lessons would you like your children and your grandchildren and our tribe to remember? What is it?
Our language mostly, and like Lee said, the ceremonies. Hardly anyone speaks Ojibwe anymore, and he has to travel a long ways to do the ceremonies for different people at funerals, at name giving, and all these other. And then he'll shortly be starting the midday ceremonies up in Minnesota, and that goes on for a while, all summer long. So he stays pretty busy. And then there was a time when he got started, I'd say about 97, when he really started doing the conducting funerals. And after my husband died, I told him, I said, there won't be anybody taken up where some of these people have passed on and didn't have anybody else to rely on because of not too many people speak the language. And so I think it was then that Lee really became active then and opened it up for other tribes to bring him tobacco and ask him to come and do ceremonies for them. So I would really encourage everyone to begin to know the language, to speak it, and because there might come a time when we'll be lost, truly lost, if we don't know the language, if we don't take it up. Then he talked about the legends, the Adisukana. I remember my grandma telling stories every night. She'd wait for the grandkids to come with their tobacco, and she'd wait till they were all settled, some of them putting pallets around on the floor, their blankets, their bedrolls, and she'd fill up her pipe and think for a while what story she's going to tell. And we'd all listen. And sometimes she told them by chapters, We didn't really say chapter 1 or chapter 2 like that, but she would know where she left off and she would continue on the next night. And sometimes one story would last quite a while before she'd tell us another one. But over the years, as I was growing up, I got to know a lot of the stories, and I recorded some of them. And I remember the first one, I was living in Minneapolis, and I got a tape recorder and recorded the one legend, and I sent it home to my sister, and she played it back and thought it was all right. I wanted some feedback, to see if I made any mistake, forgot something. And she said, yeah, I played it. And she says, Gramps came over one evening and I played it for him, she said. And he listened, and he was so surprised, and he said to my sister, Margaret, he says, who was that woman? He didn't recognize my voice, but he was so amazed that I knew what I was saying in this legend.
Wow. And have you taught that to Cindy and to your grandchildren?
I just bits and pieces of things that come to mind. I don't tell no whole stories anymore unless I'm gonna tape some, you know. But that takes a lot of your time too. And she's always saying, you gotta have a tape recorder, you know, when I'm telling them something, but they haven't taped me yet. I do my own taping at home. So you don't.
We got a fancy dancy camera now. We can bring it down and tape you whenever you
Yeah, yeah. That would be nice.
What else would you like to say?
I have nothing more to say.
I said it all right
Yeah.
now, you had big mouth.